Okay then, welcome along. I've never done one of these before and I always wanted to, and I've got a bit of time on my hands at the minute because I've been had some crazy flu lately. So and it's perfect timing because I've got the release of my latest record out on Repertoire. That was out a couple of weeks ago. It's called Holographic Principle Part 2, and for this little sort of the making of, I want to show you the original track that the whole EP series is sort of named around. This is a tune called Holographic, and it's personally one of my favourite tunes that I've ever done. And just a little disclaimer before I go through this as well is I don't really know what I'm doing. Everything that I've put together here is you know, the sum of what I've learned, mostly online and from Wheeler, who makes tunes with me, especially in my earlier days. And so nothing here is right or wrong, I don't think. Definitely not a pro at this. I'm probably doing a bunch of stuff wrong. I'm sure there'll be people watching this thinking, what the hell is he doing? But I just want to show you my process because it's not a technical process, and I don't come from a musical background. I'm not trained, I can't play an instrument. I think I've just got an innate ear for music to a point, and also I think how to put together a drum and bass tune, mainly from DJing for so long and being a raver first and foremost. So yeah, so this tune, Holographic, I'm going to walk you through sort of how I set everything up, how I approach things. So I mean, first of all, setting up a new track, I mean, I always need to start with like a principal idea, a sample, something to get me going, and then play everything off of that. I know some people start with the drums, which is fine, but I just need like a musical element, and then I'll base all the whole tune, all the other things around that. And you'll see probably, I don't know if you can, I probably won't zoom in, but in the top left corner there it says Jest Beat Volume 4. If you don't know, Jest is a UK rapper, one of my favourite rappers, MCs in history. One of the UK's best, go check him out. But this features a sample from one of his tracks called ESP from his album called Falling Down, I think 2004. It's like a sort of distorted Rhodes type sample. And I was going to use that for the linchpin of this whole track, but it ended up being quite a lot more than that. So just to give you some context, I just want to show you that so like straight off the bat. It sounds like this. So really simple, just one sound, and that's already given me a mood and a key and somewhere to get started from. When it comes to setting up sort of individual tracks, I've got like a default template that I use always. I wouldn't particularly call this gain staging, but you see if I load up a new track, I've always got a utility on here with minus 10 dB. The reason I do this is once I've built up a whole track, you know, with all of these different elements playing at the same time, if I do that, that usually gives me enough headroom for a solid sort of natural minus 3-4 dB on the master, and I find that just works for me. It gives me plenty of room to work with. So that's how we get started there. Yeah, so I guess let's probably just dig straight into let's dig straight into the drums, I reckon. Let's move into the drums. So let's have a look at the main drum track. So those are the intro drums. That moves into like an Apache sound. Which plays off a little funky drummer there. You've got some percussion going as well. Actually, before we get into drums, probably should play a bit of the track actually, because if you're new to this, you don't know what you're listening to. And chances are you probably are. So let's run out the track just from, I don't know, maybe the first 20 seconds past a drop or something like that. Let's just play it out. Sort of rolls out like that, and like I always try to do, keep things interesting, is always have like a little bridge section and then a different second drop, you know, so I have this arc coming in later on, and I'll show you, I'll walk you through that in a bit. But the important thing to note, I mean, I suppose for a jungle track, this looks fairly busy, but it's not. But I never start building a track like this out, ever. You see on the right hand side, I've got sort of everything grouped up in bunches here, just like in a few bars. This is how every single track that I work with starts, just these couple of bars. Again, I find that if you start arranging a track before you've got all the elements you want for a track, I find it much harder to then build those elements into something I've already arranged, because it feels like I'm looking for missing pieces. Whereas if I just focus on everything sort of hitting at the same time here, I can just keep throwing sounds at this without worrying about the arrangement, and as long as everything fits or sounds fairly cohesive, fairly coherent, I can move stuff around in this sort of little area, and then I'll arrange directly off of that. That's a really important tip. If anything, that's probably been one of the most important things for me in the last sort of 6 or 7 years, is in order to get tracks out in volume and to stop getting lost in tracks. Doing this gets, you know, if I hit the right vibe, I can finish a track in 2-3 hours. Whereas before I started really thinking about these processes, tracks might take 4, 5, 6 months, and then I won't be satisfied with them anyway. But yeah, let's have a look at the breaks. So we've got, I mean, how many different breaks we've got here? We've got some sort of little drum roll with a phaser on it, we'll come to that. Funky drummer. This is some hi-hat arrangement I stole from another one of mine and Wheeler's tunes. It's a little snare, little funky snare I found. I think this is from an Etch sample pack. Big up, Zach, mate. An Apache. The Apache, I think, is the same second generation Apache used in Source Direct's made up sound. It's from a hip hop tune. I can't remember where it's from. I think I found it on DOA on the grid over there. Little think break is sort of like a little fill every now and then. Another part of the think break that's more sort of the shakers and that big snare, that big sort of snare that Photech used to use quite a lot, and then some rides in there as well. So let's have a look at the intro drums. Sorry, that's not the intro drums. Right. So quite a few different breaks playing off of each other there. This first one, can't remember what it's called, but I think it's on the old Jungle sample pack. I can't remember what it's called. You know, the big one that everybody has. Sorry, that's the drum roll. Where is that one? Apache thinks there. Ah, okay, there it is. And again, I work almost exclusively in audio. The reason I do this is because I'm shit with slicing to MIDI. I never used to do it in Cubase, sort of 20 years ago, and using Recycle, which I found quite easy. But I could never got to grips with slicing to MIDI in Ableton, and I don't know why. It just always sounded rubbish to me. And also since then, I've just become so used to sort of viewing the transients when I'm arranging breaks. On a piano roll, I just find it not as intuitive at all. So yeah, always audio for me pretty much. But I'm trying to learn to get it sounding nice, because there's obviously big advantages to working in MIDI as well. But I don't know, maybe I'll get there. But one thing at a time for me. I think I've still got so much to learn. But yeah, so let's start with what I've said is a drum roll. I don't know what it is really, but it's some little loop which I've put some effects on. A little bit of delay there. Bandpass spinner. And that's about it really. Just sounds, keeps things interesting maybe, I don't know. Into the funky drummer, processing wise. A few different things on here. Drum busts I like to use quite a lot. Colours the sound a little bit, but can make things sound quite fat. It's got a little bit of transient control on there which I like to use as well. As you see, I've monoed everything as well. And have those breaks just playing off of each other. And then I like to use this little snare as well. It sort of helps glue things together, I think. So when you hear it all together, I think that little snare, that little etch snare, makes quite a difference. And then before we get into what's on the sort of master group for all these, let's ping it forward to the next part. So out of that into this Apache. You can see a lot of delay coming on and off throughout these, just popping on and off automation. I don't think I could make a track without delay. I don't know how you could really, unless you're going for some real sort of minimal autonomic sort of thing. But I like a lot of reverb. I like a lot of delay. I like everything to sort of bleed into other sounds. I think it makes things sounding organic, because the last thing I ever want is things to sound really clinical. There's two reasons for that. First of all, it's just not an aesthetic that I'm massively keen on. Secondly, if I wanted to do that clinical cold sound, I'd have to be a lot better at mixdowns, and I'm shit at those. So that probably works to my advantage that I don't massively enjoy that sound. So yeah, Apache rolls out. I'm not going to get too much into cutting audio and cutting these breaks, because you've all seen these videos thousands of different times. Like I said, I don't think this is really a tutorial. I think this is more than just sort of how I put this tune together. And the breaks are much of a muchness, you know. I like the breaks in this tune. They all work well off each other. A lot of my favourite breaks in here, a lot of jungle classics. But I think maybe the heart of this tune is some of the sort of more emotive strings and melodies that come in later. As you get through the tune, the snare comes back in. You start to have these think breaks sort of coming in for the first time, these little fills, and this secondary sort of hi-hat think break as well. This little think just add a little bit of flavour in there, I think. Yeah, this is the other think. Just the shakers and that snare. You'll recognise that. And that's sort of the midsection. And that's probably mostly it for the breaks. On these are all grouped. With a little bit of saturation. I've got this filter automation which sort of comes on and off. I'm trying to find an example of when that comes on. Again, probably towards the end, at the end of every 16 or so, I might do a little delay, maybe a little bit of gated reverb, or maybe this little filter or this phaser comes on. Probably the best way would be able to actually just look and see where the automation is. That would make sense, wouldn't it? Okay, so you've got it here, so you should be able to hear it. Especially like it on that bit. I mean, that's a fine example of sort of how I make little effects and little transitions like this. None of it is by design. It's just trial and error. You're only seeing stuff which I think sounds okay, not the dozens of disasters for me to get to this point. So yeah, I mean, we'll come back to the drums maybe when we sort of let the full tune play out a little bit more, but that's about it for the drums really. Second breakdown is not too different. But arrangement wise, different passages of the drums together, For the midsection, the Apache drops out completely, it returns to that intro section, same on the outro. Nothing too groundbreaking there. But let's get into the pads and keys. So there's not a lot musically, there's not a lot of samples here, you've just got that one Rhodes sample, which everything else has been played off. Everything else, I think, for the most part, is synthesizers or VST synths. So let's have a look. So the intro. I mostly work with either in Ableton synths or a couple of free synths. I'm not really one for spending a lot of money. Again, for two reasons. I'm stingy with my production output, monetary wise. Don't want to spend a lot of money on it. I'd rather spend money on records and stuff like that. And also, you've got almost everything you need is either in the box in Ableton, or you can get stuff for free, right? And also, thirdly, more stuff means more stuff for me to learn and less time that I'm actually making stuff. So yeah, I think this one is just a preset. Again, I'm always using presets. I know nothing about synthesis. Excuse me. I know nothing about synthesis at all. So presets and just move stuff about, even if I'm not necessarily understanding it until I get it sounding right. You'll also notice here, actually I'll get onto this, but like I said earlier, everything plays off of this one Rhodes chord. Now, I might have some sort of innate sort of idea of what key we're in, but only maybe the keys in that scale, or sorry, the notes in that scale. I can't tell you what a key is by ear. I've got no idea. So I use this tool, and I don't know how accurate it is, but I don't treat it as gospel, but it kind of works for me. So this tool here, I've got this on the Rhodes, and this told me with 99% accuracy. This is a Hornet Song key, by the way. It's really cheap. It's probably about $5 or something daft. This has shown me that it's in F minor, and now everything else that I'm doing is in F minor around this tune. And you'll see, for instance, on these sort of high strings at the beginning of the track, I've put on a blues scale. This is down in the bottom left here, if you follow the cursor. This is Ableton Scaler, and it's got a bunch of presets in here. This is a blues scale, and I've just put it to F, because again, I don't know off by heart what notes are in F minor blues scale, but I can't go wrong if I do that. Again, no real musical knowledge, just sort of a feeling for it, and just sort of, I don't know if you want to call it cheating, but just, you know, using things to my advantage. So I've done the same with this other main pad that comes in as well. So we'll just play these together. So you've got like this string here, and then these main pads. So this pad here is from a free synth that my guy Ben Repertoire showed me this. It's a synth called Tyrell N6, I think that is. And what's cool about this is it's free. That's my favourite. But it's got a bunch of great presets, and obviously being into drum and bass and sci-fi, this preset in particular, called Blade Runner, grabbed my attention, and it just felt really right for the tune. And this is a nice sound, this synth. I'm not a synth nerd, I know nothing about them, but it sounds nice to me. Didn't even go for triad, just two notes. That's all I felt I needed here. And then, and all of this together, if I can just maybe just loop it a little bit. Once the Rode comes in, I think it sounds alright. So I think that's like quite a nice little palette of sounds if you're into that sort of, you know, Blade Runner-y, dystopian, sci-fi, deep sort of sound. You know, that sort of sound that we all know if you're into sort of 90s drum and bass. And again, this will come from that single Rhodes sample, setting the mood, working out the key, and me not really knowing anything about music at all. But yeah, I could just build it off of that. And that pretty much serves the entire intro. So that pattern and these drums, that's the entire intro. Things change up a little bit in the midsection. So, like for instance, in the bridge, just before we get into the second or the first breakdown and into the second drop, you've got like just a triad here, just to build a little bit of tension. So you sort of come out of the track here. This is sort of what I'd call your sort of post-drop rollout section, where the drums might get a little bit crazy, and then go into this sort of this bridge where you know something's coming. It's quite ominous, that. And also one of the synths one of the few samples sort of musically I've used, as I found this really cool little, I don't know if it's a flute, I've written horn there, I don't know why. Just seemed to work really nicely. I think I've got Valhalla Super Nova, or Supermassive rather, on here. Again, default carousel preset. I think this is a free preset as well. Definitely worth checking out. Also, Vintage Verb is my go-to reverb. I think it is for a lot of people. But yeah, this is my little midsection. Just these elements. Like that little bit there as well. I'm sorry, I'm going off piste here, but I'm probably going to do that a lot. I'm always stopping and starting at the end of phases. I'm always like a little bit of delay, a little bit of filtering, just fucking around with something, you know. And then start to, from here you can see starting to bring some of the earlier elements back in. So you've got like this glassy high string back in. You've got the original notes from the intro, I think, and then played a little differently here. I think what I probably did here is maybe just tuned it down. Yeah, tuned it down. Just by 2 there. And again, these sort of things, I mean, there's nothing, and I should have said this at the beginning, there's nothing in this tune that's groundbreaking. You know, I'm not really looking to be a massive innovator. I don't think that's, you know, I'm not good enough really to innovate in drum and bass. I just want to be a part of it and make music that I would like to rave to, or music that I would like to listen to and like to buy, inspired by the people, you know, by the legends that I love. But big thing for me always, especially before sort of transitions, are so important, because I hate it when a tune goes into another phase without a meaningful transition. It can sound really off-putting and sudden to me. I like something dramatic, whether it is a bit of filtering, whether it is, you know, even just something, you know, really obvious like a reverse cymbal can give that effect, or a little vocal or anything. But one thing that I use time and time again is silence, or perhaps silence all but one element. So you can hear here I cut everything out apart from just that little flute type thing. And then probably for me, maybe my favourite part of the tune, this bit here. This is where the ARP comes in. Now the ARP is another Ableton preset. You can find this, just look up Train Dream Plucks. I've just probably changed the ARP rate, messed around with a few settings. Again, I've got my Ableton scaler to F minor, blues scale. And then I've just messed around until I've got a pattern that I quite like. Like a little marimba or something like that. I'm distinctly remember being a bit chuffed when I did that. But again, I've not programmed anything. I've just played things out, worked within the boundaries that I've already set myself. Brought the Rhodes back in at the same time as well. Oh, just a quick one as well on that Dreamplux. If you're familiar with some of my earlier stuff, you'll probably recognise that same sort of marimba sound used in the track by me and Cola Nut called Somewhere New. That's the first time that I found it, and I thought it worked really well in that tune, even though that tune to me now sounds mix-wise pretty horrible, but I still like the vibe of that tune. I had to put it out again for this tune and build something different for that second drop. Yeah, got the Rhodes back in there, still got those mid pads playing, still got the hi-hat pads playing. So at this point, you know, we've gone full sort of width musically. Should be taking up probably a lot of room, I imagine, and that's why I was struggling maybe to make these fit in the mix, and I don't know, maybe I just about got away with it. And again, you're going to hear it again. Silence is my preferred drop, but with a little vocal that I found here. Well, you're not going to hear the vocal because I've soloed that entire group, but yeah, those are the main musical elements of the tune. There's some FX and bits and bobs like that. Maybe we can get into those again. Nothing amazing here, just things to keep the track interesting when the musical elements are taken away. So what have we got? Actually, I've missed a couple of bits as well, actually, on the musical elements. I've got this wash pad as well, which I've used in a couple of tunes now. I don't know, it's just really sort of cosmic-y sounding sort of wash, and I just really like it. So you can hear that here. That goes on a bit. Yeah. So that's post drop. But yeah, let's get into some of the effects and sounds. I can't remember where I got these effects from. Probably I've got quite a big sample library that I've sort of put together over the years. But I don't know, you know, it's like having a massive wardrobe. You've got, you know, 40 gigs of samples, 80 gigs of samples, or whatever. They're all terribly arranged and terribly named. They're not named by, you know, their key or their note or anything like that. So you can never really find what you want. So it's just again, just try and error. So yeah, I think I've combined all the vocals and the effects here. So what have we got? I'm not sure where I've got that from. I've gated it using the old Camel Fat, which I was really happy to see that I could get working on my computer. I think Mac users can't get that working, which is a shame because that's an excellent tool. I think a lot of the old sort of drum and bass producers know about that one. But this Hey, I don't know where I got it from. Maybe somewhere like samplefocus.com. It's only after I put it into the track though I've realised it might actually be from Jackson 5. Is that young Michael Jackson? Have a listen. You tell me, it could be. What else we got? Just a stab. I think a stab with like a lot of reverb on it. Again, from Valhalla Supermassive. I think that's probably from a techno sample pack. There's some really cool techno sample packs out there. And just a little one, again, just to go off piste around sample packs. I've got a problem with using sample packs for like individual chords and notes and stuff. I do it all the time. It's great for effects and stuff like that. And for just like pad drone stuff like that. I sort of got that. I draw the line at taking melodies and riffs from sample packs, and I don't know. It just feels a bit wrong for me. But fair play if you do it, or if you're inspired by it. I'd probably be lying if I said I heard a melody in a sample pack and then sort of recreated it, maybe with a a different arp rate, a couple of notes different in a different key or something. Excuse me. Yeah, some of those techno sample packs got some great stabs and sort of dark vocals, FX, worth checking out. What else we got? Oh yeah, another pretty cliche vocal. One that's been used tons. But from looking at it here, I only used it twice in the whole track and sort of had it in the background just to signify sort of a big moment in the tune, the first big drop, and then sort of coming out of that, the big second drop, and then coming out of that second drop. And that's about it. Bass wise, really simple. I'm not a whiz with bass really, and especially in a tune like this, I suppose there's quite a lot of musical elements going on. So when you've got a sub bass, there's not a lot of room sort of for the mid-range sub bass to sort of come through. So simple 808. Won't really get into that again. You can see I've tuned it and I've got the blues scale set to F minor. One thing I noticed once I finished the tune, had it mastered, cut to vinyl, all that, as I realised that in the sampler, I'd accidentally left this gap, which usually I wouldn't do because I know it's against maybe the essence of old school jungle, but I'm fairly regimented, sort of on grid. I don't know. I find that I can get quite decent sort of flow out of things on the grid, and then it helps me layer breaks if I know everything is on the same grid. But I missed it here, and the tune doesn't sound bad for it actually. So yeah, a bit of a weird one. But that's it. I mean, those are the main elements of the tune. Arrangement wise, I mean, as you can see, I've got this little track up here. I think it's just a MIDI that I've got muted, which I've just done 8 bars just so I know what phase we're in. I sometimes even do this for 16 or 8 bars. It just makes, when I start copy and pasting this section into an arrangement, I just find that speeds up the process. So everything that I've shown you so far was done pretty much just in this sort of block. I mean, I'll probably play this block all together, it's probably going to sound awful. And then, yeah, so there's just a matter of arrangement. Arrangements is something, I don't know, for me, I've always found quite easy. Maybe it's because I've DJed for quite a long time and listened to a lot of music. As a DJ or as a raver, I kind of know what I want to happen next in a tune. I've always been quite definitive like that, you know. It's very natural. Still get stuck with arrangements though, like everybody else. And I did learn a good trick, a really obvious trick. I can't remember where I saw it. It's on a YouTube video. It's a drum and bass producer. Sometimes makes Liquid. I can't remember his name. Fucking excellent producer anyway. Somebody maybe will remind me in the comments. But he just pastes other tunes, either other tunes that he's made previously, or other big tunes, big jungle tunes or whatever that he liked the arrangement of, and just drop the audio into Ableton at the top as, you know, as the first track. Warp it so it's perfectly warped, and just copy the arrangement, because why not? The goal here isn't always to create something, I guess, amazingly unique and some sort of, you know, forward-thinking work of art. I guess the primary goal is to make a drum and bass tune that works and that people will dance to and people will listen to. And to a point, you know, I'm not really precious about how anyone does that. It's certainly not cheating, and I've started doing it a lot with my own tunes. So I'll think of, say for instance, this tune that I'm really into, and then I'll just paste and warp it into another one of my new tunes and just copy my own arrangements. Because again, once you've done these little blocks, then when you're copying and pasting everything and following another arrangement, you can just bang out the bass arrangement in like 5 minutes. And then it's just going back and doing all the little transitions and things. So that's what I'll do. So I'll go copy and paste everything in, start with my little intro. do my drop, let that roll out, and we get to here. Now at this point, I think the road's cut out here. So we've got intro, sort of your main drop. I could always call this like the rollout section. Then your bridge, then your breakdown, your second drop, and your outro. So I mean, again, maybe it's a bit too rigid to sort of always have these sort of formulas, and I try not to stick to them all the time, but I'm not reinventing the wheel really. So you got your rollout section here. Rollout section to me means pure drum and bass, not a lot of other elements. I want to hear break beats pop in, call and response from breaks, maybe a switch in the bass line, really keeping the energy up. This is the sort of part in a rave, your head's down, and your limbs are everywhere. And then into the bridge. And yeah, I mean, it's a fairly, especially for nowadays, I mean, not back in the day, not in good looking times, but nowadays 46 seconds for a breakdown, I suppose, is quite sizable, especially when you've got tunes that are dropping in 16 or 8 bars now, which is absurd to me. I don't know what everybody is in a big rush for, but always, especially when doing a deeper tune, I've always got like I suppose it's all the good looking, all the Photech, the Source Direct, Invisible Man, FBD Project, PFM, all that kind of stuff, Moving Shadow stuff, the head stuff, Goldie, whatever. I like that a deep, emotive, sort of melancholy sound, and the breakdowns are just crucial for that. Get as lush as I can possibly go in a lot of these tunes. I'm not saying I'm an expert at all. Like I said at the beginning, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing really, but if I can make something that, you know, I think is a vibe, then I'm happy with that. And going into these breakdowns, a little thing that I always liked, which I think, I don't know, maybe PFM used to do, plenty of others did it, is just rocking the 808 with all these other musical elements, and taking out the drums just to get you sort of in that deep moment. So that's what happens in this first part of the breakdown, because the breakdown is definitely sort of in at least 2 or maybe even 3 parts, you know. Actually, listening to that 808 now, that bass line now, I think it's probably been inspired by PFM the Western. It's got that boom, ba boom, ba boom, that sort of bouncy sort of sound to it. That was probably accidental, but he's such a timeless sound. All those PFM tunes, so deep, definitely inspired by him hugely. So many great tunes. But yeah, we've got a breakdown. I'll break down in 2 or 3 parts. And then moving into our second part of our breakdown with the ARP, and then into the drop. Yeah, and that's about it arrangement wise. You know, you come out of this section, 32 bars, the ARP ends there, back into a rollout section before moving into an outro. Drums switching up throughout, and before you know it, you're at what, 6:38, which is not a bad length of a tune in 2000. Well, when was this made? 2019 or something. So you'll notice that I haven't really gotten into any mixing, and there's a couple of reasons for this. I'm not big on mixdowns, which I think is probably a weird thing to say for modern day drum and bass. I mean, firstly, I'm not very good at it, but I sort of mix as I go. I find I don't know, mixdowns are part of the production process, sort of as I'm doing it. It would be odd for me to not give any considerations to mixing things down until I finish the arrangement, because there's so many parts of elements around the arrangement and little touches and things that I'll do, like adding delay, adding reverb, which for me, delay, reverb, maybe even EQing to a point, they're not really like mix down things for me. They're more sort of aesthetic things. They're creating, they're shaping a sound how I want to hear it for the sake of the finished article, for the sake of the arrangement. It's not really like I'll do that because I need to make this sound good for the mix down. I don't know if that makes sense, but so I don't really do a huge amount of mixing. You'll notice, I do the usual high pass on most things. I try not to be too aggressive, although this was a few years ago and I had quite an aggressive curve on some of these. Hopefully I haven't taken too much weight out of it. I think the whole track as a whole sounds okay. And I'll do a bit of panning, and but probably my biggest sort of mix down advice that I can give, which really changed how I thought about things, is that if I've got one sound that doesn't sound good on top of another sound, rather than trying to EQ your way out of it, which is what I would have done a few years before I made this tune, is just move one of the sounds. I mean, it seems so obvious, and I guess a lot of the big drum and bass producers do this. But if you've got one sort of full frequency sound that's occupying the same sort of space as another sound you want to use, don't use them at the same time. Less is more, and again, to me that's less of a mixdown thing now, more of an arrangement thing. I might have sound A, then sound B, rather than A and B at the same time, and have a call and response sort of situation going on instead. So whenever I'm working on a track and something sounds muddy, or something, some sort of phase issue or something that I don't understand, then just move the sample. In the last couple of years, it's made such a difference to me. Just move that vocal there, then have that other sound afterwards. Stop trying to layer everything on top of each other, because for the listener, you can only really occupy, that person can only have their attention on a few elements at a time, even before you get to the technical issues that might come with putting similar sounds in the same place. So yeah, there's really not a lot to show you mixdown wise. As you can see, a little bit of panning. I've only got two sends, or three, sorry, here. I've got a drum reverb, a normal verb, which I send pretty much everything to, a little compressor at the end of it, and a delay, which I use in a lot of different things, and that's it really. It's really not complicated, but I don't think for jungle or sort of jungle influence stuff you need to be complicated. Some of the best tunes, from the 90s objectively sound like crap, but they're the vibiest and they're the best tunes. Nobody come to no one gravitated towards jungle or any music genre really because this mixdown sounds really good, the clarity of it, all of this sounds really good. Surely that's not how people are attracted to music in the first place. So it I don't know, it sometimes bothered me that it's become an obsession. especially in drum and bass circles. Maybe because I'm bitter because I'm shit at it, but respect to people who are unbelievable engineers and can get that separation and that clarity, but bigger respect to the ones that can do that and not make it sound dead, because to me there's nothing worse than just like clinical, cold, robotic sound with no sort of organic, rootsy, earthy feeling in it. I don't want to hear that. On the master, again, not a lot. I don't master my own tracks. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So let's say play here, which is probably going to be the loudest part of the whole tune. I'll show you what's going on the master. So I've got, I don't know why, just at the end of doing this whole track, I thought, sod it, just put a small amount of saturation on there. I don't even know why I did it really. But this is my secret weapon. I put this on the master of every single tune that I've made for the last 6 or 7 years. Hornet tape saturation. It's just a tape simulator. Again, big up the people at Hornet. This is like, I don't know, is it €10 or something? It just sort of beefs up the low end and rolls off the top. I hate really glossy sounds. I'd much rather tops taken off. I don't think it ever sounds good on your ears really, and I haven't got the technical skills to really handle and manage those high frequencies. So I'll just bang this on. You notice there I hit auto gain there. It always turns on and off. It must be a bug with the tape tool. But yeah, just have this running. Yeah. And if you check on the right there, I've got a sort of steady sort of -6 dB going there. You know, with the master set to 0. It's probably the result of some of the, like I said, if you want to call it quote unquote gain staging that I do on every track, to give myself lots of headroom in case I want to do some crazy distortion or something mad, and give me lots of room to play with, and just bounce it down like that, and that's it pretty much. Yeah, let me know if there's anything else. I might do another one of these if this one goes down well, or if anybody watches it at all, which is a big if. But I don't know, if there's anything else you want to know, leave I don't know, leave a comment, I guess, and I'll get back to you. But that's it. That's the making of Holographic. So that was from Holographic Principle Volume 1. That was out from 2018-2019, and out right now is the Holographic Principle Volume 2. Features a remix of this tune by Dead Man's Chest, who has sort of stripped it back, beefed it up, and made it sound even fatter. So yeah, go check that out. That's it. That's the end. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.